Welcome, friends, to the place where your childhood memories come to rot. You remember the land of Ooh, don't you? You recall the vibrant, candy-colored landscapes, the whimsical adventures of a boy and his magical dog, and the quirky charm of a post-apocalyptic fairy tale that felt more like a playground than a graveyard. But I am here to peel back the skin of that beautiful lie and show you the festering meat beneath. What if I told you that the magic you cherished was never magic at all, but the agonizing, delirious distortion of reality caused by a dying brain swimming in radiation? The candy people are not sweet subjects. They are the charred remains of humanity, desperate and fused together. The hero is not a savior. He is the last human child, Finn Mertens, huddled in the darkness of a nuclear bunker, slowly succumbing to the silent, invisible poison of the fallout. This is not a story of adventure. This is the autopsy of a hallucination. Finn sits in the oppressive shadow of the concrete silo, his knees pulled tightly to a chest, where the ribs threaten to pierce the translucent, lesion-covered skin. He is the victim of a world that ended in fire, a terrified boy trapped in a suffocating box of steel and silence. His core motivation is not heroism, but a pathological need to escape the terrifying quiet that signifies death. The silence here is heavy. It presses against his eardrums like a physical weight, smelling of ozone and ancient dry dust. To survive the crushing loneliness, his mind fractures, splintering into a vibrant, protective psychosis. He constructs a narrative where he is not a starving child waiting to die, but a champion, a knight in denim shorts. He forces his brain to paint over the gray, dripping walls with bright colors, turning the terrifying isolation of the bunker into the cozy clutter of a treehouse, desperate to believe that he matters in a world that has already forgotten him. The sensory experience of Finn's existence is a war between the cold, damp reality and the feverish heat of his imagination. In the bunker, the air is stagnant, thick with the metallic tang of irradiated blood and the sour stench of moldering supplies. Somewhere in the dark, water drips with a rhythmic, maddening plink, plink, plink that echoes like a ticking clock counting down his remaining heartbeats. But Finn squeezes his eyes shut, and the smell of mildew transforms into the scent of baking apple pie. The cold, hard floor becomes the warm wood of a tree fort. He shivers, not from the biting chill of the nuclear winter seeping through the cracks, but from the excitement of an imagined quest. Yet, the dread is always there, lurking at the periphery of his vision, a darkness that the bright colors of Ooh can never quite cover, a sensory reminder that the rot is spreading, both in the world and inside his own decaying skull. Beside him lies Jake, the anchor of his fragile sanity. To the audience, Jake is a wise, shape-shifting pug with a heart of gold. To Finn's unraveling mind, he is the ultimate companion who makes the nightmare bearable. But in the harsh, flickering light of the emergency bulb, Jake is simply a golden retriever, barely breathing, his golden fur matted with blood and falling out in clumps due to severe radiation burns. The dog does not speak. It wheezes, a wet, rattling sound that signals the fluid filling its lungs. Finn pets the tumors bulging beneath the dog's skin, interpreting the sickening squelch of the growths as the magical elasticity of a magical brother. He needs Jake to be magical, because if the dog is just a dying animal, then Finn is just a dying boy. The lie of the magical dog is the load-bearing wall of his entire constructed reality, and he defends it with a desperate, manic intensity. The nightmare truly begins when the hunger becomes too great to ignore. forcing them to venture out of the safety of the bunker and into the grasslands. Finn pushes open the heavy blast door, the rusted hinges screaming like a banshee, and steps into the gray, ash-covered wasteland. In his mind, the sun is shining, and the grass is a lush, vibrant green. He spots a figure in the distance, a scavenger wrapped in filthy makeshift hazmat gear, frantically searching for food. Finn's hallucination instantly overlays the stranger with the visage of a grotesque monster threatening a princess. With a gleeful battle cry that sounds more like a sob, Finn rushes forward, swinging a heavy rusted lead pipe. He strikes the monster again and again, unaware that he is bludgeoning a fellow survivor to death. As the scavenger's skull cracks and blood sprays across Finn's face, his mind filters the horror. He sees only bright red strawberry jam. He giggles, tasting the copper on his lips, the first step taken on a road paved with madness and murder. CK ace away, hyperventilating, wiping his hands on his shirt, but the corruption is spreading. He looks at his own right arm. In the fantasy, a grass sword has wrapped around it, a curse of thorns. In reality, the limb is necrotizing rapidly from a combination of an untreated wound and acute radiation poisoning. The flesh is black, green, and gangrenous. The smell sweet and pungent. The veins are black lines tracing poison up towards his heart. He can't feel his fingers anymore. The arm is a dead weight, a foreign object attached to his body. The grass sword is tightening, the infection threatening to consume him entirely. He knows with a terrifying clarity that the arm is killing him. The pain begins to register, a throbbing, burning agony where the living tissue meets the dead. The Lich's voice whispers in his head, telling him that the rot is inevitable, that he is already part of the dust. "Cut it off," the voice says. Or maybe it's his own survival instinct screaming through the madness. Sever the link. Finn looks around the maintenance closet frantically. He spots a jagged piece of rusted metal shelving, sharp and serrated. It looks like a sword. It looks like salvation. He picks it up, the metal cold against his feverish palm. He looks at his dead arm, then at the weeping, skinless mass that was once his dog. The world is dissolving into brown sludge and pain. He has to be the hero. He has to stop the curse. With a primal scream that tears his throat, Finn swings the jagged metal down onto his own forearm. The first impact doesn't sever the bone, it just tears through the rotting meat. He screams again, a sound of pure animalistic suffering. But he doesn't stop. He hacks at his own limb, driven by a delirium that frames this self-mutilation as a heroic sacrifice. Blood sprays the walls, mixing with the grime and the fallout dust. He is crying, snot and tears mixing with the blood on his face, chopping away at himself to escape the rot that is already inside him. The bone snaps with a sickening crack. The arm falls to the floor with a heavy, wet thud. Finn collapses back against the wall, clutching the bleeding stump, his vision graying out. The shock hits him instantly. The colorful world of ooh flickers and dies, unable to sustain itself against this level of trauma. For a moment, there is no Candy Kingdom, no Ice King, no magic dog. There is only a mutilated child bleeding out in a dark closet next to a dying animal while a radiation storm rages outside. The silence he feared so much rushes in, filling the room, drowning out his whimpers. But the mind is a resilient, terrible thing. As consciousness fades, the darkness begins to swirl. The blood pooling on the floor starts to look like red ribbon. The pain transforms into the dull ache of a battle scar. Finn looks at the severed arm and sees the grass sword, defeated, lying on the ground. He looks at the skinless dog and sees a shape-shifted shield. He hasn't lost. He has survived. He crawls toward the door, leaving a trail of blood, dragging his body toward the center of the crater, toward the final confrontation. He is broken. He is dying, but he is not done. The Lich is waiting, and Finn Mertens has one last hallucination to live before the lights go out forever. Finn drags himself toward the center of the crater, his body leaving a wide, wet smear of blood and filth across the concrete floor. This is the well of power in his mind, the final arena where the ultimate evil awaits. In reality, he is crawling into the deepest depression of the bunker directly beneath the fractured ventilation shaft, where the radioactive dust drifts down like a black snowstorm. Every inch of movement is a negotiation with agony. His severed arm throbs with a rhythmic pounding heat that feels like a second heartbeat. He is weeping, but he is no longer making sound. His throat is parched, fused by the dry air and the screaming. To his glazing eyes, the piles of toxic waste and debris are the jagged cliffs of the citadel. He is not a dying child crawling through his own grave. He is the champion ascending to meet his destiny, fueled by a heroism that is indistinguishable from madness. The Lich awaits him. It is not a monster of bone and magic, but the towering, silent accumulation of the fallout. The shadow cast by the ventilation shaft stretches long and dark, taking the shape of a horned giant. The smell here is overpowering, not just the copper of blood, but the dry, static scent of ozone and the sickly, sweet rot of the candy people behind him. The Lich does not move. It simply exists, an inevitable fact of the universe. It is the entropic force, the physical manifestation of the end of all things. Finn looks up at the shadow, his vision tunneling. He sees the green flames of the Lich's eyes, but they are just the bioluminescent fungi growing on the damp walls, feeding on the decay. The monster is terrifying because it is still. It does not need to attack, it only needs to wait. The voice of the Lich vibrates in Finn's skull, bypassing his ears entirely. It is the hum of the radiation, the sound of his own cells breaking down, interpreted by his mind as a deep, resonant whisper. "You are alone, child," it says. "There is no magic here, there is only the dark." The Lich operates by stripping away the illusion, gaslighting Finn with the absolute truth. It shows him the gray walls, the dead dog, the bleeding stump. It forces him to look at the gold of his treasures and see only rust. Finn screams, shaking his head, trying to dislodge the voice. "No," he rasps. "I am the hero. I am Finn the human." But the title rings hollow. He is human, yes, and that is his tragedy. He is biological matter in a world that has become hostile to life. Finn tries to stand, to raise his sword, but his legs refuse to obey. The necrotizing flesh has spread to his nervous system. He collapses forward, his face pressing into the cold radioactive sludge. The world spins. The colors of ooh flicker violently. Blue sky, gray ceiling, green grass, concrete floor. The Lich looms over him, the shadow growing larger as the light in the bunker begins to fail. "Fall," the voice commands. "You are strong, child, but I am beyond strength. I am the end." Finn realizes with a jolt of crushing despair that he cannot kill this enemy. You cannot kill the fallout. You cannot slay the cancer in your own blood. The sword is useless against the storm. The hero has failed. The physical battle is lost. But in that moment of absolute defeat, as the darkness threatens to swallow him whole, Finn makes the final, fatal choice. If he cannot defeat the reality, he must defeat his perception of it. He looks at the lich, the shadow of his own death, and decides to stop fighting the inevitable. He realizes that the only way to win is to retreat so deep into the fantasy that the truth can never find him again. He looks around frantically for the ancient artifact that Simon had offered him. He spots the gas mask lying in the dust, its rubber straps broken, its lenses cracked. It is no longer a safety device. It is the crown. It is the object that grants dominion over the Ice Kingdom, over the cold, over the silence. He crawls to the mask, his fingers trembling as he grasps the decaying rubber. The lich's shadow falls over him, pressing him down, but Finn ignores the weight. He lifts the mask to his face. It smells of old sweat and fear, but to Finn it smells like cold, crisp winter air. He pulls the straps over his head, the rubber biting into his lesions. As he seals the mask against his face, the sound of his own ragged breathing amplifies, filling his ears. Ah-ko, ah-ko. It is the sound of life persistence. He closes his eyes tight. When he opens them, the gray bunker is gone. The darkness has become the night sky of ooh, filled with stars. The lich is not destroyed, but banished to the corners of his mind. He has surrendered to the madness completely. Now he needs his brother. Finn crawls back toward the maintenance closet, toward the pile of wet, skinless meat that used to be Jake. He doesn't see the horror anymore. The mask, the crown, filters it all out. He sees his magical dog, tired from the battle, resting. "We did it, buddy," Finn whispers, his voice muffled by the rubber mask. "We saved them." He reaches out with his remaining hand and strokes the raw flesh, feeling soft, golden fur. He ignores the wetness, the cold, the smell. He curls up tightly against the corpse, seeking warmth where there is none. He presses his forehead against the dog's exposed ribcage, closing his eyes, desperate to enter the dream one last time. The physical dying process accelerates. His body temperature drops rapidly as his organs fail. The cold he feels is no longer the biting chill of the bunker. In his mind, it is the cool, comforting breeze of the grasslands after a long adventure. The pain in his arm fades into a dull, distant throb, a battle wound he will wear with pride. The hunger that has gnawed at him for weeks dissipates, replaced by a strange, euphoric lightness. His brain, starved of oxygen and riddled with radiation, dumps its final reserve of endorphins. It is a chemical mercy. The fear evaporates. The paranoia dissolves. There is only a profound, heavy sense of peace. He is a boy who has played hard and is now ready to sleep. "Good night, Jake," he murmurs into the silence. He waits for the response, and his mind, ever the faithful storyteller, provides it. He hears Jake's voice, warm and familiar, echoing in the infinite space of his dying synapse. "Good night, dude. That was a mathematical adventure." Finn smiles beneath the gas mask. The tears that leak from his eyes are no longer tears of terror, but of relief. He is safe. The princess is safe. The kingdom is restored. He lets out a long final breath, the condensation fogging up the cracked lenses of the mask. His heart gives one last stuttering beat, a drum falling silent in a vast hall, and then nothing. The victory is absolute. Finn Mertens dies believing he is a hero. He dies believing he is loved. He dies in a world of color and magic, holding his best friend. But this victory is the ultimate curse. The price of his peace was his sanity. To escape the horror, he had to lose his humanity. He had to become a monster to survive the monsters. And in the end, he had to choose the lie over the truth. The screen of his mind fades to white, a blinding, beautiful light that promises an eternity of adventure. But we, the audience, are not granted that mercy. We are not allowed to look away. We are trapped in the reality he left behind. The camera pulls back, slowly, relentlessly. We leave the subjective viewpoint of the child and enter the cold, objective eye of the truth. The colors desaturate instantly. The magical tree fort dissolves into the rusted, dripping pipes of the maintenance closet. The grasslands become the concrete floor covered in trash and filth. The stars above are just the flickering sparks of a dying generator. The silence of the bunker rushes back in, deafening and heavy. There is no music here. There is only the sound of the wind howling through the ventilation shaft, a mournful dirge for a world that has already ended. We see the tableau of death in all its grotesque detail. In the center of the dark, cold room lies the small, emaciated body of a boy. He is wearing a dirty blue t-shirt and shorts that hang off his skeletal frame. His right arm ends in a crude, bloody stump. On his face sits a broken, useless gas mask, the lenses fogged with the moisture of his last breath. He is curled up in a fetal position, hugging the rotting, skinless carcass of a golden retriever. Flies buzz lazily around them, the only living things left in this tomb. It is a portrait of absolute despair, a grim monument to the cruelty of survival. But the horror does not end with the visual. It lingers in the implication. Inside that skull, in the firing of the very last neurons before total brain death, the loop continues. Faintly, sounding as if it is coming from an old broken radio in another room, we hear the theme song, "Come Along With Me." It is distorted, slow and deep, warping in pitch like a melting record. And the butterflies and bees. The cheerful melody is mocked by the visual reality of the flies and the dust. It is a lullaby for the damned, playing on an eternal loop in a dead machine. The song slows down until it becomes a low guttural drone, merging with the sound of the wind. The camera lingers on the boy's masked face. We realize that he died alone in the dark, terrified and in pain, and that the magic was just the fever dream of a dying animal. The bunker stands silent, a concrete coffin buried in a wasteland that will never recover. The story of Ooh was not a history. It was a tombstone inscription written in the language of delirium. There is no "the end" card. There is just the fading of the light, the cessation of the signal, and the cold, hard fact of the grave. Now you know. The next time you see the bright colors and the happy smiles, you will remember the smell of ozone. You will remember the sound of the dripping water. You will remember the boy in the mask and the dog without skin. The fairy tale is over, friends. The candle has been blown out, and all that remains in the darkness is the rot.